Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of 13. Are your children in the right car seat for age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I would driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is it's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers. People who choose the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles. But what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids drop out of school, and that's not okay. That's 12 years. It takes about the same time to drop. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor. Because when it succeeds, we all succeed. Give. Advocate. Volunteer. Live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome to Wise Guys, These Guys in Sports, here live on the Worldwide Sports Network on this Tuesday, September the 13th. Everybody remember going follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. We are back here another week on the Wise Guys Sports Show. What a wonderful NFL week 1 that we had this previous weekend. So many games to get to. We're going to recap a lot of games tonight. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers upsetting the Cincinnati Bengals, Cincinnati here in Cincinnati. Also, we're going to talk about the LA Chargers beating the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers over the weekend as well. So many games to get to. Justin Fields beat Trey Lance in Chicago as well. So a lot of games to get to. NFL week 1 is officially over, and football is officially back. And so I'm definitely excited. I know NFL fans around the world are also excited. And so here we go again with another NFL season. And so call into the show tonight. If you want to talk about your team, whether they won or lost in week 1, 513-203-8655, 513-203-8655. Call into the show tonight. Let's talk some football. Also, here's the question of the day on tonight's show. Which team had the most disappointing performance of week 1? Is it the Packers, the 49ers, Bengals, or Titans? Call to the show. Packers, 49ers, Bengals, or Titans? Who had the most disappointing performance of the week? And I want to read y'all the live results on Twitter right now. So we got the Bengals with 50% and the Packers with 50%. So right now on the Twitter, on the on the live voting on the Wise Guys Twitter page, most people believe the Packers and the Bengals had the most disappointing performance in week 1. So call to the show. Give me your thoughts on the question of the day. But let's start off in Seattle, as last night it was homecoming for Russell Wilson as the Seattle Seahawks beat the Denver Broncos 17-16 in Russell Wilson's homecoming for the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith had one of his best games of his career. He went 23 of 28. He threw for 195 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Russell Wilson had a mediocre game. He went 29 of 42. He threw for 340 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Jerry Jeudy had a great game for the Broncos. He had 4 receptions, 102 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So, as we open up the show tonight, I have to call out Nathaniel Hackett because last night, watching the game, first and foremost, I got to say this before, when it comes to the game overall, I said this going into the game. I said that if the Seattle Seahawks go 1-16 this season, if their one and only win comes against Russell Wilson on opening night when he returns back to Seattle, Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks organization and fans would be satisfied if they beat Russell Wilson on opening night in his return back to Seattle. I feel like that would be a successful season for the Seattle Seahawks because the Seattle Seahawks, they don't have major expectations this season. Most people believe, including myself, that the Seahawks are going to finish last in the NFC West. They don't really have a quarterback. I know Geno Smith played well last night, and I want to give him a lot of credit because Geno Smith played great last night. And by the way, he had one of the best bars that I've heard recently. He said they wrote me off, but I didn't write back. He said that in his post-game interview after the game. So shout out to Geno Smith. He had an outstanding game. But Geno Smith is not a franchise quarterback that you can build your team around. And the Seattle Seahawks are rebuilding this season. So last night, in the early stages of the game, you could tell that the Seattle Seahawks brought a lot of energy to the game. They also brought that Seattle Seahawks crowd that energized that football team last night. I mean, even if you wasn't, at the game, if you were watching the game on TV, you could tell how electrifying that Seattle Seahawks crowd was last night in Seattle. They were pumped up for Russell Wilson's return. And I believe the Seattle Seahawks players fed off of the fans' energy. And you could tell the entire game. So, again, I think when you look at the Seattle Seahawks overall as a team, they don't have many expectations this year. But if they could find a way to upset Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos on opening night, that would be a successful season for the Seattle Seahawks. So they brought the energy, they brought the intensity, and I thought the Broncos were the team that had to play catch up throughout the game. I thought Seattle played with a little more intensity. They played with a little more energy, and as the game went along, you could see that the Broncos were clearly the better team. But by that time, you get into the fourth quarter, it's a close ball game. Yeah, it's 17-13, in the fourth quarter. So I thought that the Seattle Seahawks brought the energy for sure in the game. Now, when I look at the Denver Broncos last night, new regime in Denver, new head coach Nathaniel Hackett, new quarterback Russell Wilson, who they just signed to a $245 million extension. And we all know that Russell Wilson is an upgrade over previous quarterbacks that the Denver Broncos have had over the last, 8-9 years? Since Peyton Manning, the Denver Broncos haven't had a franchise quarterback. They've had Brock Osweiler, Teddy Bridgewater, Tim Tebow, they have not had a caliber of a quarterback like a Russell Wilson since Peyton Manning. So when you bring in a quarterback like a Russell Wilson, you immediately have high expectations. So when you talk about all the rest of the teams in the AFC this year, the Raiders, the Chiefs, the Chargers, Bengals, Ravens, the Broncos are included in that conversation because they got Russell Wilson. And so for me, as I watched the game last night unfold at the end, I was confused about what the hell I was watching because Nathaniel Hackett, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, who I got a lot of respect for, he was previously in Green Bay, and he helped Aaron Rodgers win NFL MVP as a coordinator. Now, Aaron Rodgers doesn't need much help because he's already talented enough to win an MVP by himself. But Nathaniel Hackett played a major part in the success that the Packers offense has had the last few years. So he got the head coaching job in Denver. Last night, it's 17-16. Broncos are stopped on like the 45-yard line, I believe. It's like the 45-yard line. And so it's like a minute and 11 left in the game. So if you were watching the game live and you were watching Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, they had on Shannon Sharp, former Bronco, on the show on the broadcast. They had him on last night as a guest. And so if you were watching the game and you were watching Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, because they got Peyton Manning, Eli Manning on ESPN too, and they got Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on ESPN. You could see that Peyton Manning, in the immediate aftermath of Javonte Williams getting tackled, you could see Peyton Manning saying, okay, let's take a timeout here. Let's take a timeout. And time just kept ticking. And so here were the options that the Denver Broncos had when Williams got tackled. You got 3 timeouts. A, you could have went for it on 4th down. It's 4th and 5. And if you convert, it's a great chance that you win the game. Here is the Broncos' win probability if they convert on 4th and 5. This is per NFL Next Gen Stats. If the Broncos convert on 4th and 5, it's a 42% chance that they win the game. Now, it's a 66% chance of them at least being able to kick a field goal had they converted on the 4th and 5. But your chances of making a 64-yard field goal were 14%. So you could have went for it on 4th down, and that's the reason why you brought in Russell Wilson. Make no mistake about it. Why in the hell would I trade for Russell Wilson, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, one of the best quarterbacks that we currently have in the NFL, and I recently gave Russell Wilson a $245 million extension, and I don't put the football in his hands in that moment? I don't understand for the life of me what the hell Nathaniel Hackett was thinking in that moment. He looked lost. He seemed confused, and he was very, very indecisive. And as a head coach in that moment, being in your first year, you got to be decisive in moments like that. It's 4th and 5. Even if you don't convert on 4th and 5, you still got 3 timeouts. But because they wasted 30, 40 seconds, he decides to kick a 64-yard field goal, and that significantly decreases your chances of winning the game. Here's another possibility. Even if you don't trust your $245 million quarterback who you just gave an extension to, even if you don't trust Russ in that situation, you could have punted. You could have punted back to the Seahawks, used all your 3 timeouts, and you would have got great field position. You've got great field position because it's a great chance you would have pinned the Seahawks deep in their own territory, and you would have gotten great field position back if they called a timeout. If they would have like rushed the special teams unit out on the field, punted. Let's just say that the Seattle Seahawks, they get the punt and they fair catch at about a minute and 3 seconds. You run 3 plays, you probably would have gotten the ball back with 40 seconds left after you call 3 timeouts. 40 seconds left. But again, if you pin the Seahawks deep, when they punt it back to you, you're going to get great field position back. And so all you need really is 1 or 2 big plays with 40 seconds left with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. All you need is 1 or 2 big plays to get in a possible field goal range that is an easier field goal for McManus. But instead, Nathaniel Hackett decides to take the worst option, and he decides to call timeout. I can't remember exactly how much time was left when he called a timeout, but I do know the play clock was running down. It was almost a delayed game. He decides to. If you're watching on on TV, on live on TV, you see the ESPN cameras. They cut to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and you see Russell Wilson in the offense trotting off the field, and you see McManus in the Broncos special teams unit trotting on the field. And I'm wondering what the hell was going on. You're gonna attempt a 64-yard field goal? And oh, by the way, if McManus would have made the field goal, it would have been the second longest field goal in NFL history. And that's also not Justin Tucker. That ain't Tucker, that's McManus. So, again, Nathaniel Hackett, he got to answer some questions today. And if I'm John Elway, I'm bringing Nathaniel Hackett into my office today, and we got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation because I heard Russell Wilson say all the right things after the game. He said it was the right decision. We know Russ is a team-first guy. We know he's going to say the right things. But if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm feeling some type of way because I'm feeling like you don't trust me to get 5 yards. 5 yards. Because it's a great possibility. If the Broncos convert on 4th down, they're going to win the game. Great possibility. 513-203-8655. 513-203-8655. Again, I like Nathaniel Hackett, but that was a major, major blunder last night in his coaching debut. And I know if you out there in Denver today, Denver Broncos fans, they're calling onto these sports talk radio shows, and Nathaniel Hackett is the main topic that they're discussing today. Because you can't make those bad decisions as a head coach. You just can't. You can't. I know John Elway was fuming last night as he watched this unfold. I know he was fuming. And I go as far as to say, in his coaching debut, this decision by Nathaniel Hackett was so bad, he could easily already find himself on the hot seat as the season goes along. Because now it's already a red flag to Broncos fans thinking when we get back into these type of situations, and we all know in the NFL, games are more lost than they are won by head coaches. Coaching is so important. Go ask Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys how important clock management and being disciplined, how important that is as a football team. We all know the Dallas Cowboys last year were the most penalized team in the NFL. And they also had a lot of clock management issues. And so now, if you're a Broncos fan, you're wondering about your head coach and how he's going to if he's going to be able to make the right decisions moving forward as the season goes along. So everybody go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Call to the show 513-203-8655. 513-203-8655. When you look at the game last night, though, I thought last night in the game for the Denver Broncos, I thought Jerry Jeudy had an outstanding game. And I believe that Jerry Jeudy is one of those receivers in the NFL that is going to have a major, major, major impact on his team being able to win football games this year. And I thought last night in his first game with Russell Wilson, you could see the connection that Russell Wilson had with Jerry Jeudy. That touchdown pass that Russ threw in the first half, that ball was underthrown. And Jerry Jeudy made a play on that ball. That was an underthrown football by Russell Wilson. Jerry Jeudy made a play. But I think it's going to be important for this Denver Broncos team as the season goes along. They're going to have to establish the running game with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. You don't want Russ having to drop back to pass 45, 50 times per game. We know Russell Wilson can cook. You gotta let Russ cook, but you also have to be able to establish the running game so you can open up the passing game for Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton in the passing game, the receivers. Cortland Sutton is a nice receiver in this Broncos offense. He's not great, but he's nice. And Jerry Jeudy, obviously, is your number one receiver right now. So I want to see them establish the run game more as the season goes along. Last night they had 19 rush attempts between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. But like I said, I think the biggest reason why the Denver Broncos are sitting here today at 0-1 is because of their impact. And it's crazy because who would have thought that after week 1, the Seattle Seahawks would be leading the NFC West at 1-0. Ain't that crazy? Rams lost over the weekend. Cardinals got blew off the field by the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Bears beat the Niners. So right now, sitting alone in first place in the NFC West is the Seattle Seahawks. Man, I love football. Call to the show, 513-203-8655, 513-203-8655. Question of the day, which team had the most disappointing performance of week 1? Was it the Packers, 49ers, Bengals, or Titans? Let's transition to an NFC North battle in Minnesota over the weekend as the Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers 23-7. The 16-point margin of victory was tied for the largest versus the Packers over the last 20 seasons. For the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, he struggled. He went 22 of 34, 195 passing yards, 1 interception. Kirk Cousins went 23 of 32. He threw for 277 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had a field day at Packers defense. He had 9 receptions, 184 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. So everyone's talking about Aaron Rodgers, and is he to blame for the Packers' poor offensive performance? Let me be very, very clear and let everyone know that while this game was going on, you had the Chargers and Raiders game going on at the same time. And so over the last 3 years, as a Packers fan, I've gotten a chance to witness the best quarterback and wide receiver connection in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So I'm on my phone watching the Packers game and Vikings game, And I'm also looking at the Chargers and Raiders game as well. I got my NFL Red Zone going on, of course. Now, of course, I'm going to be watching the Packers game majority of the time, and I'm also checking out the other games as well with my NFL Red Zone package. And I'm looking at Devontae Adams, right? And this is Devontae Adams, his numbers Sunday. Devontae Adams had 10 receptions, 141 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. The Packers receivers had 12 receptions, 120 receiving yards, no touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers went 11 of 15, 95 passing yards, 1 interception when targeting Packer receivers. So, of course, as a Packers fan, I'm sitting there thinking, man, what the hell is going on? And I got to blame Aaron Rodgers because everyone's talking about that Devontae Adams went to Las Vegas to play with Derek Carr. And I've been on record saying that I think Devontae Adams made the right decision going to Las Vegas to play with his boy in Derek Carr. Because Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, they were friends at Fresno State. They put up records at Fresno State. So they were teammates and they were also friends off the field. So Devontae Adams has a great relationship with Derek Carr. But the reason why Devontae Adams is not currently in Green Bay is not because the Packers couldn't pay Devontae Adams, because it was reported that the Packers could pay Devontae Adams the same money that he got from the Las Vegas Raiders. The reason why Devontae Adams is not in Green Bay is because of Aaron Rodgers being so indecisive from year to year on whether or not he actually wants to play football season to season. That's the reason why Devontae Adams right now is in Las Vegas. So I blame Aaron Rodgers for Devontae Adams being out of Green Bay. And so, Aaron, you're going to have to make this work with these young receivers that you now have to deal with. You got to make it work because when Devontae Adams was in Green Bay, you could always count on Devontae being able to be a reliable target for Aaron Rodgers. But because Aaron Rodgers is so indecisive and he doesn't know what he wants to do from year to year, Devontae is like, I might as well go and play with my boy because I know I'm going to have 10 years with Derek Carr compared to 3 years with Aaron Rodgers. So I never blame Devontae Adams for wanting out of Green Bay. And so I'm watching the game, and first play of the game, first play from scrimmage for the Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson beats Patrick Peterson up the sideline on a go route. Beats him right up the sideline. Aaron Rodgers puts the ball right where Christian Watson needed it, and he would have scored a touchdown. He drops the pass, and guess what? Aaron Rodgers doesn't target Christian Watson again until the fourth quarter. So Aaron Rodgers honestly ghosted Christian Watson. Once Christian Watson dropped that first pass on the first play of scrimmage for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers decided, I'm not throwing him the ball again for a while. So Christian Watson didn't get another target until the fourth quarter. Not only that, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, they had some miscommunication issues with Aaron Rodgers. And that's the reason why you saw A.J. Dillon lead the Packers in total receptions. A.J. Dillon had 5 receptions. Romeo Doubs had 4. But again, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to figure this out. He's going to have to figure this out because he's a part of the reason why Devontae Adams is in Las Vegas. Him being indecisive and him not being committed to the Packers for 5 or 6 more seasons is the reason why Devontae wanted to leave. I can't blame Devontae. And so now I'm watching the game. I'm seeing Aaron Rodgers getting frustrated. He's getting upset with his young receivers. You can tell on the sideline that he's frustrated and he's upset because he's used to a certain standard at the receiver position in Green Bay. He's used to having reliable guys that he could throw the ball to. And right now, he just doesn't have that. Outside of Robert Tonyan and Randall Cobb and an injured Alan Lazard, he doesn't have anyone he can trust right now. He doesn't have anyone he can trust. So that's the main reason why the Green Bay Packers struggle overall. And so, like I said, I think that as the season goes along, I think these young receivers in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, they will get better. They will learn, but it's going to take some time. And you really honestly can't be mad at Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. It's going to take some time. Your first game of your NFL career, it's an NFC North battle. Kirk Cousins versus Aaron Rodgers. It's the Vikings. It's the Packers in that stadium, NFC North. Because we all know regular season speed is different than preseason speed. Just like NFL playoff speed is different than NFL regular season speed. You got your preseason speed, regular season speed, and playoff speed. So this was Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs' first game of their careers playing in a hostile environment in Minnesota. Romeo Doubs played at Nevada. Christian Watson played at North Dakota State. They didn't play at Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia. They didn't play at no big-time school. Nevada and North Dakota State, they never played in a game of this magnitude. So, of course, the bright lights might have been a little bit too much for Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. But Aaron Rodgers made this bed, so Aaron Rodgers has to lay in this bed. So, Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to hear no excuses. You're going to have to make it work with these young receivers. Going to have to make it work. Now, as bad as the offense played for the Packers over the weekend, I was more disappointed in the Packers defense because I don't know what the hell defensive coordinator Joe Barry was thinking, allowing Justin Jefferson to go off for over 180 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't understand why he did not have all-pro cornerback Jair Alexander follow Justin Jefferson all over the field. This was Jair Alexander after the game. He said, quote, "Why I wasn't on him, that's not my call. Anybody who watches me play, you know that's what I want." That was Jair Alexander in the immediate aftermath when Justin Jefferson going off for almost 200 receiving yards on the Packers defense. You got an elite cornerback in Jair Alexander. I don't want to hear about where they kept moving Jefferson in motion and we didn't want to confuse other defensive players. No, you got an elite quarterback on your team. Elite cornerback. You got to have him on the opposing team's best player. Justin Jefferson is the best player on the Minnesota Vikings. Why Jair Alexander was not matched up against Justin Jefferson is something I cannot understand. Why that was not the matchup that Joe Barry and the Green Bay Packers defense didn't want is something I just can't wrap my mind around. I don't understand what they were thinking. I don't understand what they were thinking at all. Like, you see Justin Jefferson, he's in a zone, he's getting open, and he's just literally running free in the secondary, and there's no Packer defender within 5 yards of Justin Jefferson. No Packer defender. On one play, I saw the Packers line up Preston Smith across from Justin Jefferson. And I'm like, what do you expect to happen here? Poor Preston Smith. Poor Preston Smith, because he was out there on an island on Justin Jefferson. Had no chance in hell of being able to stop Justin Jefferson. So I don't know what defensive coordinator Joe Barry was thinking. They made a mistake. You got to have your best cornerback on the opposing team's best receiver when he's going off like that. But I thought the Packers defense was disappointing in week 1. We all know it's going to take Aaron Rodgers and the young receivers some time to develop chemistry in the early part of the season. So you expect the Packers defense to step up and be able to carry this Packers team in the early part of the season. And on Sunday afternoon in Minnesota, that just was not the case. That wasn't the case. I saw Vikings receivers running open all throughout the afternoon. And they had no answers for Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins, 23 of 32, 277 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. But Kirk Cousins never had to sweat on Sunday. He never had to sweat because the Packers defense didn't apply much pressure and they didn't have any resistance against the Vikings passing offense. None whatsoever. None. So I was disappointed in the Packers defense, even more so than the offense. I really, really was. You look at the Minnesota Vikings, Dalvin Cook, he had 20 carries, 90 rushing yards. Adam Thielen actually had a quiet day, 3 receptions, 36 receiving yards. It was mainly just Justin Jefferson. Mainly just Justin Jefferson. So, again, I know the Packers offense is going to take some time to get into a rhythm, but I was more disappointed in the defense than even the offense. Now, will the Packers bounce back in week 2? Packers play the Vikings at Lambeau Sunday Night Football. I'll be there. I'll be at the game Sunday in Green Bay. So I expect the Packers to have a bounce back game at home at Lambeau in week 2. Even though the Bears did beat the 49ers and they're 1-1 in the season, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have back-to-back bad games. So I expect the Packers to take care of business in week 2 at home against the Bears. Plus, I'll be in the house at the game. They damn sure better win on Sunday while I'm there. If I'm in town, Packers better take care of business at Lambeau on Sunday night. Or we're going to have some issues. Everybody go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys. Mr. with these guys know sports. Vikings got the Eagles on Monday Night Football next week. So that's going to be a big-time matchup in Philly. Eagles fresh off a win over the Detroit Lions, 38-35. So it's going to be a nice matchup. Kirk Cousins versus Jalen Hurts in the city of brotherly love next Monday. So excited about that. Call to the show, 513-203-8655, 513-203-8655. Let's transition to the AFC West battle as the LA Chargers beat the Las Vegas Raiders 24-19. In the game, Derek Carr, he had a subpar game. He went 22 of 37, 295 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Devontae Adams went 10 receptions, 141 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, he got off to a great start this season, 26 of 34, 279 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. So, watching this game, I was disappointed in Derek Carr because you bring in a Devontae Adams. You pair Devontae Adams up with the Hunter Renfrow, who's the best slot receiver that we have in the NFL. You also pair him up with the elite tight end in Darren Waller. Kelsey Kittle, and Waddle. Those are the 3 best tight ends that we have in the NFL. And as I watched this game, Derek Carr, he targeted Devontae Adams over 15 times in this game. Over 15 times. You got weapons in Darren Waller, in Hunter Renfrow, in Josh Jacobs. Why are you targeting Devontae Adams over 15 times in a game when you got so many weapons to distribute the football to? I thought Derek Carr and the Las Vegas Raiders offense was predictable because they kept trying to feed Devontae Adams the football. And I love Devontae Adams. We know Devontae Adams is elite. He got to get his touches, but you have other weapons on this Raiders offense who can make plays, who you can distribute the football to. So I thought their offense was predictable, and I thought that was the reason why the LA Chargers were able to key in on what the Raiders were doing offensively. Defensively for the Chargers, they just brought in Mac Daddy, Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack was brought in via trade earlier in the offseason for the Chargers. Khalil Mack had 5 tackles, 3 sacks. So Khalil Mack made an immediate impact on that Chargers defense. Derwin James, one of the best safeties that we have in the NFL, he had 6 tackles, 1 sack on the game. The Raiders gave up 5 sacks in this game. That's also going to be key. No matter how great your weapons are, if you can't protect Derek Carr, the Raiders will not make the playoffs. And all this talk about the Raiders having an improved roster and an improved team overall, it won't matter if Derek Carr continues to get sacked 5 times per game. It won't matter. You got to protect Derek Carr. So those are my 2 main issues that I had with the Raiders. Derek Carr was predictable, throwing the ball to Devontae Adams, feeding him the football, and the offensive line was awful for the Raiders. They were awful. But let's give credit to that Chargers defense. Let's get some credit to them because they showed up and they were outstanding in this game, holding the Raiders offense, that's a high-powered offense, to only 19 points. Well, that's impressive. Defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. I'm sorry, defensive coordinator Ronaldo Hill. That's the LA Chargers defensive coordinator. Give him some credit. Got to give him a lot of credit. So again, like I said, I had some issues with Derek Carr, and I had some issues with them in that offensive line. Now, offensively for the Chargers, I thought the Chargers were outstanding in this game. I thought Justin Herbert was efficient. You look at his numbers for the game. Herbert goes 26 of 34, 279 pass yards, 3 touchdowns. And unlike Derek Carr, Herbert did distribute the football around. Keenan Allen had 4 receptions, 66 yards before he left the game with an injury. Gerald Everett, the tight end, he had 3 receptions, 54 receiving yards. DeAndre Carter, he had 3 receptions, 64 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So I thought Herbert did a great job at distributing the football around to the Chargers' weapons. And they got a lot of weapons. You got Mike Williams, you got Keenan Allen, you got DeAndre Carter. So I like the way Herbert played in his opener. And I think the Chargers' offense is going to be an elite offense all season long. I already said that Herbert is going to win NFL MVP. He was my pick to win NFL MVP this year. And I think he got off to a great start. But it's going to be a nice test for the Chargers because Thursday night, they got the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. So I want to see how good the Chargers really are this year when they play the Chiefs Thursday night in an early matchup in the AFC West. We just saw the Chiefs go crazy offensively against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be that good this year. But if the Chargers are a playoff team and they are a legit Super Bowl contender in the AFC, we're going to find out what type of team they are this year early in week 2 in that Thursday night matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I'm excited for it. I'll be talking about that game on Thursday night's show. Justin Herbert versus Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Thursday night football. It's going to be a great game. Everybody go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Now, the Raiders, they're home against the Arizona Cardinals in week 2. Again, Arizona got blew out in week 1. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be a playoff team this year. I think they're going to struggle. So I think that's a game where the Raiders can get back on track and, win their first game of the season and be 1-1. In the AFC, you can't lose 3-4 games in a row and expect to be a playoff team. You can't be 0-2, 1-4, 2-3, 2-6. In the AFC this year is so much competition that you can't afford to lose multiple games in a row. You can't afford that in the AFC this year. The margin for error is slim in the AFC with so many good teams. AFC West alone, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs, AFC North, Bengals, Ravens, Browns got a win over the weekend over the Panthers and Baker Mayfield. In the AFC, South, even though all those teams lost over the weekend, you still got the Colts with Matt Ryan. The Titans still got Derrick Henry. So, it's going to be tough in the AFC. You can't lose consecutive games in a row. In the AFC East, you got the Miami Dolphins. You got the Buffalo Bills. Miami was impressive in their win over the Patriots over the weekend. But so that's those teams' upcoming schedule. Let's transition to the NFC North. I'm sorry, the AFC North. The Steelers at Bengals. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they beat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 in an upset at Paycor Stadium. For the Steelers, Mitchell Trubisky went 21 of 38, 194 passing yards, 1 touchdown. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow, he had an awful game. He went 33 of 53, 338 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. He lost one of those fumbles. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 129 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So, in this game, one of the keys was the Steelers lost T.J. Watt, but T.J. Watt recently announced that he will not be out for the season. So he's going to be back in about 6 weeks, I believe. So they're going to get back T.J. Watt. And I thought T.J. Watt was the best player on the field Sunday at Paycor Stadium. That's how dominant T.J. Watt was. He was like it almost seemed as if he was in the Bengals huddle. He knew exactly what was coming, play in and play out, and he made an immediate impact in this game. On the first possession of the game for the Bengals, Minka Fitzpatrick intercepts a pass from Joe Burrow and takes it to the house. I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers set the tone early in this game, and I thought their defense carried them as we got late into the third and fourth quarters of this game. I thought the defense set the tone in the early part of the game, and by the time the Cincinnati Bengals offense finally got into a rhythm, the Pittsburgh Steelers had already had a lead, and they controlled most of this game. Now, here's the part that's interesting looking at this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they won the turnover battle in this game because the Bengals, they fumbled the ball twice, lost one of those fumbles, and Burrow threw 4 interceptions. And late in the fourth quarter, the Bengals had a chance to win the game if they could have successfully kicked a PAT. That tells me that the Cincinnati Bengals are significantly more talented as a football team from top to bottom than the Pittsburgh Steelers currently are. You have 5 turnovers, and the Bengals had an opportunity to win the game if they could have kicked a PAT. That tells me that the Pittsburgh Steelers this season will not be a playoff team. I already went on record saying the Steelers this year will not be a playoff team, and they're going to finish 4th in the AFC North. They're going to finish 4th. I give them credit for being able to win Sunday, but the Steelers are not a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. Mr. Trubisky didn't even throw for 200 yards in this game. He didn't even throw for 200 yards. And there were times when the Pittsburgh Steelers had chances to put the Bengals away, and they could not do it. And I actually like the Pittsburgh Steelers receivers. You got Chase Claypool. You got Deontay Johnson. You got Pat Freiermuth. And then at running back, you got Najee Harris, one of the best young running backs that we have in the NFL. But they don't have a good quality quarterback. I didn't even say great because Kirk Cousins isn't great. Ryan Tannehill isn't great. Kyler Murray isn't quite great. Dak Prescott isn't great. But they got Mitchell Trubisky as their quarterback. And Mitchell Trubisky, at his best, is a game manager. They had countless opportunities to put the Bengals away, and they could not do it. And I'm looking up at the scoreboard at the end of the game, and I'm like, how in the hell are the Bengals in this game? If the Bengals were playing any other team in the NFL that was actually elite, the Bengals would have lost this game by 3 touchdowns. They'd have lost this game by 3 touchdowns if they were playing another elite team in the NFL. So this game told me more than anything else that the Pittsburgh Steelers are not an elite team, and they're not a playoff team in the AFC this year. So that was one of my biggest takeaways from the game. I thought Joe Burrow was sloppy in this game. That's how he played. He played very sloppy, and I thought that he was you could tell that he was rusty. He was rusty. I mean, he didn't play in preseason, and that Bengals offense took some time for them to get into a rhythm. They also lost T. Higgins to a concussion in this game, and I thought that touchdown pass that Burrow threw in the end zone that was called incomplete, it was a potential touchdown pass that was incomplete that he threw. T. Higgins would have caught that. Late in the fourth quarter. The receiver was Mike Thomas. That's the young receiver. I thought he had a touchdown catch from Joe Burrow in that late in that game. But that if T. Higgins is in the game, he catches that touchdown pass from Joe Burrow. And then also, I didn't understand on the last possession when Jamar Chase scored his touchdown, I didn't understand what the Pittsburgh Steelers were doing defensively because the DB was 5 yards off of Jamar Chase. And you know all Jamar Chase has to do is do an out route, and Burrow's going to deliver him the ball, touchdown, game over. You got to be in press coverage in that moment. The play when Jamar Chase scored, go and look at it. I know Steelers fans was confused like I was. Like, why are you playing 5 yards off of Jamar Chase? You got to play press coverage in that moment. You can't play 5 yards off of Jamar Chase. But I also thought Jamar Chase previously scored on 2 plays before that. I thought the officiating crew got the play wrong when they called him short of the goal line. His foot was on the goal line. I thought the ball had crossed, the plane, but they said he didn't. But I thought the Bengals, they still had countless opportunities to win this game. And honestly, the Steelers deserve to win this game. They deserve to win this game. And they won the battle, but the Bengals are going to win the war because the Bengals are a better football team than the Steelers are. They're just better. As you look at the head coaches, Mike Tomlin is a better coach than Zach Taylor. And that's the only advantage I could possibly give the Steelers. I like the Steelers defense. I like Minka Fitzpatrick. I like TJ Watt once he comes back. But without TJ Watt, I think the Steelers are going to struggle the next few weeks. I think they're going to struggle. So I think Steelers fans, I don't think they should be optimistic about their team, even after this week 1 win over the Bengals. When it comes to Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow will be fine. I think Joe Burrow was just rusty. He just played sloppy in his first game action of the season. You can tell that he has to get up to regular season speed. You can practice all day long in 707 and play and play against guys with shorts and helmets on, but it's different when you got the pads on and it's live game action. So I think Joe Burrow will be just fine. He's still going to have a tremendous season. Bengals offense is still elite with Joe Mixon in the backfield, with P. Ryan as well. Still got Jamar Chase. You're going to get back T. Higgins. You got Tyler Boyd. Bengals will be fine. They got the Cowboys in week 2, so they'll be fine. Cowboys were awful, and I'll get to them here in a bit, but they were awful in their week 1 loss to the Buccaneers. Steelers going to be home against the Patriots in week 2. I don't believe in the Patriots either. I don't think they're a playoff team, but Mac Jones also is dealing with an injury right now. Everybody going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Should have followed Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Let's transition to the question of the day. Which team had the most disappointing performance of week 1? Packers, 49ers, Bengals, or Titans? Call into the show. Give me your opinion on the question of the day. 513-203-8655. I gotta admit, I believe the team that had the most disappointing performance was the Tennessee Titans. Because the Packers, they got young receivers. They're trying to develop chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. They're going up against an NFC North opponent in the Minnesota Vikings that have an elite offense with Adam Thielen, with Justin Jefferson, with Dalvin Cook. Tough matchup for the Packers in week 1. Tough matchup for them. I know I was on Facebook talking a lot of trash to my cousin who's a diehard Vikings fan. I had to remind him that the Vikings have never won a Super Bowl in their franchise history, but Vikings are a good team with a nice offense led by Kirk Cousins. That's a tough matchup for the Packers. 49ers, new starter at quarterback in Trey Lance. He's young. He's unproven. We don't know what we're going to get from Trey Lance. Going up against Justin Fields in Chicago. I like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback. You in his house at Soldier Field, and they were playing in terrible conditions in Chicago on Sunday. So I understand why the 49ers lost that game. Also, George Kittle didn't play. So your best player on offense didn't play in the game. Well, you could say Deebo Samuel also on that offense. So him and Kittle are two of the best players that the 49ers have on their offense. But no Kittle in that game. Terrible weather conditions. Trey Lance in his first start. I could see how the 49ers could lose that game. Bengals, again, going up against another opponent in their division in the AFC North, a team that knows them very well, a team that's well coached, and the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers offensively are not going to knock their socks off with Mitchell Trubisky, but defensively, they got a solid defense with Minka Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt who can make plays. So I think the Titans were the most disappointing team in week 1 because the Titans, they have expectations to make the playoffs this year. They got expectations to be a playoff team in the AFC South and in the AFC. And in the game against the Giants, the Titans, they had a 13-0 lead at halftime. 13-0 lead at halftime. You got Derrick Henry, the best running back in the NFL. You got an average quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. And on some days, you can make an argument for Ryan Tannehill to be a good quarterback, like a Dak Prescott, like a Kirk Cousins. And you give up a 13-point lead to Daniel Jones? Think about this. In the second half, the New York Giants, with Daniel Jones at quarterback, the Giants outscored the Titans 21-7. 21-7, the Giants outscored the Titans. So I believe that the Titans had the most disappointing performance in week 1. You got a 13-point lead at the half over the Giants. You got to close that deal. This is a game that I believe Mike Vrabel and the Titans could look back on and look at as a game that could be a game that made them miss the playoffs. You got to win these type of games going up against the New York Giants. The Giants were picked to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I think he's awful. And you couldn't put Daniel Jones away? Disappointing performance from the Titans. AFC going to be competitive. All those teams in the AFC that's going to be fighting for a playoff spot, and the Titans give up a 13-point lead at the half and lose the game 21-20. Very disappointing performance from the Tennessee Titans. So I think they were the most disappointing team of week 1. Call into the show, 513-203-8655. 513-203-8655. Let's transition to Dallas as Dak Prescott, he injured his thumb in the loss to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He reportedly will be out for 6 to 8 weeks. So let me be very, very clear about where I stand with the Dallas Cowboys right now. Before Dak Prescott injured his thumb, the Dallas Cowboys were already having a terrible game offensively. I'm watching the game, and I'm literally falling asleep. Mind you, when the NFL season starts, the first few weeks of the NFL season, your body has to get used to being able to watch football all day. I mean, you up at 12, 1 o'clock, watching the 1 o'clock games. You watch the 4 o'clock games. By 8, 9 o'clock, you tired because you've been watching football all day. And your body got to get used to watching football all day. And by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you might get a little tired. I'm watching the Bucks-Cowboys game, and I'm falling asleep as the game goes along. I'm falling asleep because the game was that boring. It was that boring of a game. And I'm looking at the Cowboys offense, and I'm looking at them struggle without Amari Cooper. Remember, they traded Amari Cooper earlier this offseason to the Cleveland Browns. They lost James Washington in training camp to a foot fracture. Michael Gallup is still rehabbing from season-ending surgery last year. And CeeDee Lamb is not proving that he could be a number 1 receiver on your team. For the game, CeeDee Lamb had 2 receptions, 29 receiving yards. And so before Dak Prescott got injured, the Dallas Cowboys didn't even have a touchdown on the board. Didn't even have 1 touchdown. And their offensive line, they already dealing with a lot of injuries on their offensive line. that Tampa Bay Buccaneers front, they got to Dak Prescott 4 times. So the Cowboys offensive line gave up 4 sacks to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they're already out, without Tyron Smith. They did sign Peters, the lineman that previously played in Philly, but he's just now learning that Cowboys offense. So I was already thinking before Dak Prescott's injury, the Cowboys are in trouble. And I already went on record and I said the Cowboys are not a playoff team in the NFC. They're not a playoff team in the NFC. In the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles are the kings of the NFC East. And then Dak Prescott injures his thumb, goes to the sideline, he's talking to the trainer, you see McCarthy, Jerry Jones talking to Dak. All I could tell that this was a serious injury. And that game, Jerry Jones, he just spoke to the Cowboys. He announced that Dak Prescott's going to be out for a significant time. And so the Cowboys season ended before it started. So I already have the expectations of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott being out 6 to 8 weeks. I don't see the Dallas Cowboys be able to stay in the NFC. I don't see it. Rush not the answer. He's not the answer. And so they have the Bengals this in week 2. That will be a consistent Bengals because keep up with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's going to come back with inches for his performance. And I think the Cowboys team, I don't get a playoff team over the next few weeks. Home against the Bengals in week 2. They're at the Giants in week 3. Home against the Commanders week 4. At the LA Rams in week 5. At the Philadelphia Eagles in week 6. Both of those games are losses. They're home against the Lions in week 7. And then they're home against the Bears in week 8. So their schedule, honestly, is not that bad. Because they play the NFC North this year, so they could beat the Lions and Bears without Dak Prescott. But the Eagles, Rams, and Bengals, those games are all losses for the Cowboys. And they might even lose to the Lions. Because I saw the other day, the game against the Philadelphia Eagles were dominating that game against the Detroit Lions. I look up in the 4th quarter, that game was a close game. Eagles ended up winning the game 38-35, but you could see that the Detroit Lions are a much improved football team this year. Yes, I'm saying it. The Detroit Lions are a much improved football team this year. I was wrong, Lions fans. I know I said the Lions are going to be the worst team in the NFC North. I still think that's a possibility, but they're going to compete in games. Jared Goff, he's going to turn the ball over. He's going to have 2 or 3 interceptions per game. But guess what? Jared Goff also can throw 3 touchdown passes with 3 interceptions. So that's a game the Cowboys could lose to the Detroit Lions in week 7 at home. And then they got a bye in week 9, week 10. They're at Green Bay against the Packers. That's a game that I believe Dak Prescott is going to target to return back to. But then week 11, they got the Vikings in Minnesota. They'll lose that game. If they don't got Dak Prescott, they're going to lose week 10 and week 11 against the Packers and Vikings. Even with Dak Prescott, I wouldn't favor the Cowboys in those 2 games. But if you got Dak Prescott, you got a puncher's chance. But again, even before Dak Prescott's injury, the offense was awful. They were awful. Their defense, the only reliable players that I can rely on is Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. I thought Micah Parsons, he had a great game, and I think he's one of the best young defensive players that we have in the NFL. He had 4 tackles, 2 sacks, so he had a pretty good game. Van Der Esch, I don't believe in him anymore as a linebacker. He's dealt with a lot of injuries in his past, but he had 6 tackles. Diggs had 3 tackles. But I looked at the game and Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, they didn't light it up offensively. In the game, the Bucks they had for total yards 347 total yards. They had 152 rush yards. So I thought Leonard Fournette was great for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Leonard Fournette, he had 21 carries for 127 rushing yards. So I thought he was great in the game for that Buccaneers offense. And so I think when you are a team that can lean on your running game, it could help your passing game as the season goes along. If you can rely on a running game in the early part of the season, while your receivers and quarterback develop chemistry, I think that could be a recipe for success for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this season, in the early part of the season. They got the Saints in week 2 in New Orleans. That's going to be a big-time matchup in the NFC South. Saints, they always play the Bucks tough. They always play them tough. For whatever reason, when the Bucks go up against the Saints, they struggle. They did beat the Saints on their playoff run, on their Super Bowl run, when Drew Brees was still in New Orleans. But the Saints, they play the Buccaneers tough. Saints got a 27-26 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Thomas caught a touchdown pass in that game. So maybe Michael Thomas is going to get back to being an elite receiver. But also in the game with the Bucks and Cowboys, we saw some flashes of Julio Jones. Julio Jones had 3 receptions for 69 receiving yards. Mike Evans, 5 receptions, 71 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So, again, I think that the Buccaneers offense will be just fine. They did lose Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is injured again. He's dealing with an injury. It's a hamstring for Chris Godwin. So that's a major concern for the Buccaneers, because a hamstring injury, it could plague you all season long. It could really hurt Chris Godwin's ability to get back at being 100%. It could flare up on you at any given moment. So, losing Chris Godwin will hurt the Buccaneers. I already said before the season that their offensive line is an offensive line that they're coming together. They dealing with a lot of injuries right now on the offensive line. Right now, they don't currently have their center at O-line. I think his name is Jensen, if I'm not mistaken. Jensen is the center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's on IR right now. So we'll see what happens with the Buccaneers moving forward. We know the Buccaneers are a playoff team. They're gonna win the NFC South. But Cowboys season is over before it even started. So it's gonna be a long season for the Dallas Cowboys. It's gonna be a long season for the Dallas Cowboys. And it wouldn't surprise me if Mike McCarthy finds himself without a job at the end of the season. It's unfortunate, though, because we can't really judge Mike McCarthy this year if Dak Prescott is going to be injured. And it's crazy because I look at Dak Prescott right now. This thumb injury is unfortunate because in 2 out of the last 3 seasons, Dak Prescott is going to miss significant time. So if you Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, you gotta be wondering about Dak Prescott's ability to stay healthy. Durability is going to be an issue for Dak Prescott. It's been an issue for the last 3 seasons. It's unfortunate. We hate injuries. We don't wish injuries on anyone. And Dak Prescott is a good quarterback who's a good dude. I really, really like Dak Prescott. I think you can win a Super Bowl with that. I really, really do. But durability has been an issue over the last 3 seasons with that. So you got to get a quality backup for the Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush is not the answer. He's not the answer as a quality backup. So if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I would seriously get on the phone, make a call to the Baltimore Ravens and try to get my hands on Tyler Huntley. Huntley was the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens last year when Lamar Jackson missed the last few games of the season last year. Huntley took over for Lamar Jackson, and Huntley looked good. He looked good. He almost beat Aaron Rodgers last year when the Packers were in Baltimore. Remember, they had a chance to win the game on a go-ahead 2-point attempt. So Huntley is a great option right now that the Cowboys should be looking at to replace Dak Prescott during this time that he's out with an injury. I would seriously consider getting on the phone, calling the Baltimore Ravens, and seeing what I have to give them to get Huntley. I'm not calling the 49ers for Jimmy G. Huntley is better than Jimmy G. He's better than Jimmy G. I know y'all like, what? Yes, I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I've been on record saying that San Francisco 49ers, they didn't win because of Jimmy Garoppolo. They won in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo at this point in his career is a backup at best. I believe Huntley is a quarterback. Dare I say that you can build your team around. I'm not saying he's the long-term answer in Dallas. Dak Prescott, given the fact that you paid him all that money, he's your franchise quarterback. But if you want to save the season for your team and for Cowboys fans, you get on the phone with the Baltimore Ravens and you trade for Tyler Huntley. You make that move if you are Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones. I thought last year Huntley did a great job replacing Lamar Jackson in that Ravens offense. Last year, his numbers weren't impressive. He had 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,081 passing yards. Tyler Huntley did. He played last year in 4 games. He went 1-3. But he did have over 1,000 yards passing. And then also, he did a great job running the football. He had 294 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns in those 4 games played last year for the Baltimore Ravens. So if you're the Cowboys, you want to save your season, you make a trade for Tyler Huntley. Everybody go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. It's that time of the week for my NFL Week 1 Breakout Performer of the Week and my NFL Week 1 Disappointing Performer of the Week. My NFL Week 1 Breakout Performer of the Week, it is the one and only Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was sensational. In Week 1, he went 30 of 39. He threw for 360 pass yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Patrick Mahomes was outstanding in Week 1. He is my NFL Week 1 Breakout Performer of the Week. Now, my NFL Week 1 Disappointing Performer of the Week, it's Aaron Rodgers. And the reason why I'm saying Aaron Rodgers is my NFL Week 1 Disappointing Performer of the Week is because of Aaron Rodgers' greatness and the standard that we hold Aaron Rodgers to. Aaron Rodgers goes 22 of 34. He threw for 195 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. So he was awful. But I'll give Aaron Rodgers a pass because he's dealing with those young receivers. But he's my NFL Week 1 Disappointing Performer of the Week. But I think this honestly is, and I know it's only Week 1, but I got to do this. This is an award that Aaron Rodgers is going to share with Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, he goes 33 of 53, 338 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. So Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers are both my NFL Week 1 Disappointing Performers of the Week. I can't, like, the excuse I could give Aaron is the young receivers. but he still, according to his standards, had an awful game. Joe Burrow was rusty. And 6 turnovers is awful. You got to do better, Joe. And I expect Joe to bounce back in week 2 against the Cowboys. But that's my NFL week 1 disappointing performers of the week. Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, and my week 1 breakout performer of the week is Patrick Mahomes. Everybody go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. I'll be back live on Wise Guys on the Worldwide Sports Network on Thursday. But remember, on Thursdays, I'm going to be coming on early around 6 p.m. because we got the Thursday night matchups that take place at 8:20. So I want to be off air by the time the Thursday night games start. And Thursday night's game is going to be a great one. Justin Jefferson and Patrick Mahomes, AFC West battle in Kansas City. I'll be previewing that game on Thursday night's show. I'm also going to be previewing other big-time games I'm looking forward to in week 2. And I'm going to be giving everyone my NFL Wise picks for week 2. Everybody go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Don't forget you can catch the Wise Guys podcast on all the major podcast platforms like Spotify, like the Apple Podcast app on the iPhone, on Google Podcasts as well. You can catch the Wise Guys Sports Show. It'll be on the podcast platforms for sure. And we'll be live on Thursday night, back talking the latest in sports news. Everybody enjoy your Tuesday night. I'm Trey Larkin signing off the Worldwide Sports Network. Have a good one.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.